Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are not just analyzing a topic, we are standing on a precipice. We're looking out over a philosophical landscape that is stark, it's barren, completely silent, and yet, and this is the strange part, it's supposed to be where we find our happiness.
It is the most counterintuitive roadmap to happiness ever written. I mean, truly.
We are unpacking the mind of Albert Camus. And I have to say, looking at this stack of notes, the essays, the speeches, the letters, it feels less like we're studying a philosopher and more like we're reading the diary of a guy who is trying to talk himself off a ledge.
Right.
But not in a depressed way, in a defiant way.
That is a crucial distinction. You've hit it right there.
Yeah.
Camus isn't about wallowing. He's about lucidity. He's about keeping your eyes open when everyone else is, blinking.
So I want to start somewhere specific.
Yeah.
Usually when we talk about famous writers winning awards, it's a victory lap. It's the culmination.
Sure.
But with Camus, the story starts with a panic attack.
Panic is exactly the right word.
Set the scene for us. It's 1957. Camus is only 44 years old. He gets the call that he's won the Nobel Prize in Literature, the highest honor a writer can possibly get.
The pinnacle.
And his reaction isn't, I made it. It's terror. Why?
To understand the terror, you have to understand the man's internal landscape. First, 44 is absurdly young for a Nobel. It really is.
It's a Lifetime Achievement Award, usually.
Exactly. It's usually a capstone award given to someone in their 70s, someone whose career is, for all intents and purposes, finished. Camus felt he was just getting started. He had this massive, unfinished work in his head.
So he felt like he was being told, okay, you're done, wrap it up.
Exactly. He felt like he was being turned into a statue while he was still alive. There's a line in his acceptance speech, which is in the stack, where he describes himself as a man rich only in his doubts. That's not false modesty. He genuinely felt that his work wasn't ready. He felt exposed in broad daylight, I think is the phrase he uses.
Rich only in his doubts. That sticks with you. But there was also a political dimension to this panic, wasn't there? It wasn't just imposter syndrome.
No, not at all. It was the weight of Algeria. You have to remember, Camus was a Pied Noir, a Frenchman born in Algeria.
Right.
In 1957, the Algerian War of Independence is raging. It's bloody, it's brutal, there's torture on both sides, it's a nightmare. And suddenly, the spotlight of the entire world is on this one man. Everyone wants him to pick a side.
And he's standing there in Stockholm, in a tuxedo, feeling like a target.
He couldn't help but compare his own sudden good fortune, the champagne, the applause, with the incessant misfortune of his homeland. He felt a kind of survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
He felt the silence of other writers who were imprisoned or killed for what they wrote. So no, this wasn't a party for him. It was a heavy, heavy burden.
And he deals with that burden in the speech itself by redefining what a writer is supposed to be. He doesn't see the writer as this lofty genius, living in an ivory tower and dropping wisdom on the peasants.
Far from it. In the speech, he outlines a strict duty. He says the writer cannot place himself above the debate.
He has to be in it.
He has to be in the mud. He says the writer is there for the service of truth and the service of freedom. But here is the kicker, the part that really defines him. He says the writer must not serve those who make history, but those who suffer it.
That is such a powerful alignment, not serving the kings or the generals or the revolutionary.
But the victims, the people being crushed under the wheels.
It's a very lonely position to take, isn't it? Because usually people want you to pick a side in history. You're with us or against us.
And Camus says, no, my side is the human being who is getting crushed by history, regardless of which side is doing the crushing.
To really get why he felt this way, I think we need to zoom out and look at his generation. He calls them the generation of 1914.
It's a haunting label. It really is.
I was reading his description of this generation, and it honestly gave me chills. It sounds like a horror movie timeline.
It essentially is. I mean, think about it. These are men and women born at the start of World War I. So their earliest memories are of fathers missing or dying in the trenches.
His own father.
Camus' own father died in WWI when Camus was just an infant. So they were literally born in blood.
And then, just as they hit their 20s, the prime of their life, they watch Hitler rise to power.
They see the Spanish Civil War, this brutal dress rehearsal for the main event.
And then World War II explodes. They witness the concentration camps, the reality of industrialized genocide, torture on a scale nobody could have imagined.
And just as they crawl out of that rubble, what are they staring at?
The Cold War, the nuclear threat. Annihilation.
It's trauma after trauma. There's no breathing room. There's no peace.
And this leads to a fascinating shift in expectations. Camus says that typically every generation believes it is destined to remake the world.
Right. We're going to build a utopia. We're going to fix what our parents broke. That's the usual useful arrogance.
But the generation of 1914...
They know they can't. They know they don't have the resources or the time or, frankly, the hope to build a new world.
So what's their task?
Camus says their task is heavier. Their task is to prevent the world from falling apart.
That hits so hard. It's not about winning. It's about not losing everything. It's a defensive holding action.
It's about fighting nihilism. It's about refusing to lie about what you know. It's about resisting oppression just enough so that a dignity of living and dying can survive. It's incredibly humble, but also incredibly heroic.
And I think that context is just vital because we're about to shift into his philosophy, the absurd. And I think a lot of people hear the absurd and they think of, I don't know, a surrealist painting or Monty Python. They think it means wacky or silly.
Like a glitch in the Matrix or something just weird.
But hearing about his generation, this philosophy wasn't written by a guy smoking a pipe in a comfortable study. It was written by a guy watching the world burn.
Exactly.
The absurd isn't a joke, it's a survival mechanism.
It's a diagnosis of a terminal condition. That's the perfect way to put it.
So let's define it properly. In the myth of Sisyphus, he defines the absurd. And it's not just life is confusing. It's more technical than that.
It is. The most common mistake people make is thinking that the absurd is the world itself. You know, you stub your toe and say, oh, the world is absurd, or you see a war and say life is absurd. But Camus is very, very specific.
The absurd is not the world.
And it's not the human mind either.
Okay.
The absurd is the relationship between the two. It is the confrontation. It is the divorce.
Okay, let's role play this for a second because I want to make sure I really get it. I am the human mind. What do I want?
You are desperate. You have a ravenous and almost insane appetite for clarity. You want everything to make sense.
I want unity.
You want unity. You want to know that if you are a good person, good things will happen. You want to know the why behind suffering.
Yeah.
You want the universe to speak you in a language you can actually understand.
Okay, so I'm screaming why into the void, and what is the world?
The world is silence. It is unreasonable silence. The world doesn't care about your logic. It doesn't care about your morality or your feelings. It operates on physics and biology, completely indifferent to your need for meaning.
And the absurd is the friction between my screaming and that silence.
Yes. It is that painful gap. That's the whole thing. If you didn't care about meaning, there would be no absurd. If the world actually had a clear meaning, there would be no absurd. It's the fact that you must ask, and the world cannot answer.
Camus gives some really visceral examples of how this feeling sneaks up on you, because it's not always an intellectual crisis, is it? Sometimes it's just a Tuesday.
It's the collapse of the stage set. That's his metaphor. He talks about the mechanical nature of daily life. We all know this rhythm.
Oh, yeah.
You wake up, meal, commute, 4 hours of work, meal, 4 hours of work, commute, sleep, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
The grind, the hamster wheel.
And usually we just do it. We're carried by the habit, by the momentum. But then Camus says the why arises. Maybe you're sitting on the bus, staring at the back of someone's head, and suddenly the change just snaps. You think, why am I doing this? What is the point of this whole pantomime?
And that feeling of sudden alienness, that's the absurd knocking.
That weariness is the beginning of consciousness. The stage scenery collapses, and you see the ropes and pulleys, and you realize it's all just a set. It's all fake.
The one that really unsettled me in the text was the phone booth example.
The strangeness of others.
Yeah.
It's a killer.
Yeah. He describes seeing a man in a glass phone booth. You can't hear him, right? You just see him gesturing. His face gets red. He's waving his arms. He's opening and closing his mouth. And without the context of his words, without the meaning of the conversation...
He's a puppet.
He just looks like a mechanical puppet. It's inhuman.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
It is, because you look at him and you think, is that a human being?
Yep.
Is that what I look like to other people?
It strips away the humanity and leaves just the biology. It creates this feeling of nausea. You realize that other people are impenetrable. You can never truly know what is in that man's head. He is a stranger.
And then Camus takes it a step further. He says, we are strangers to ourselves.
The mirror example, yeah.
Right. You catch your own reflection in a shop window or a mirror just for a split second before you recognize yourself. And in that second, you see a stranger. You see an object.
You see a face.
A face. You realize that your consciousness is trapped in this meat suit that you don't really control and that will eventually decay and die.
And that brings us to the ultimate absurdity, death.
The mathematical inevitability.
That is the ultimate wall the mind hits. We feel infinite. Our desires are huge. We can imagine eternity. And yet, we are bound by a biological expiration date that is totally arbitrary.
It makes no sense.
That contradiction, an infinite mind in a finite, rotting body, is the core of the absurd.
So we have this diagnosis. We are trapped in a bad marriage with the silent universe. The temptation, obviously, is to try to fix it, to find a way out.
And this is where Camus brings in science. We think, okay, philosophy is confusing, but science explains the world. Science will give us the unity we crave.
But Camus says, not so fast.
He points out that science eventually dissolves into poetry.
Hypothesis and metaphor.
Exactly. Think about the atom. When we were kids, we saw that little model of the solar system electrons orbiting a nucleus. Looks like a little machine. It's neat. It makes sense.
Right.
But then you talk to a quantum physicist.
And they tell you it's not a ball, it's a probability cloud, it's a wave function, it's Schrödinger's cat, it's all just math.
Right. We can describe how reality behaves, but we can never explain what it is. We can manipulate the world, but we can't know it. So even science fails to bridge the gap. We are still strangers in a universe we can describe, but not truly know.
This is grim. I mean, we're striking out everywhere. And this leads Camus to that famous opening line. The one that makes you put the book down and just stare at the wall.
It's an incredible opening.
There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide.
It just sweeps everything else off the table.
Yeah.
To say, look, whether the Earth revolves around the sun or the sun around the Earth, that is trivial. That's a game. The only question that matters is life worth living?
If the world has no meaning, if the silence is permanent, does that dictate that we should leave?
It's a question of logic for him.
Mm-hmm.
If the absurd is unbearable, is suicide the logical solution?
And he identifies two types of suicide. There's the physical one, actually killing yourself.
Which he calls a confession. It's confessing that life is too much for you or not worth the trouble. But interestingly, he rejects physical suicide.
Why? If it's all meaningless, why stick around?
Because suicide doesn't handle the absurd. It dissolves it. Remember, the absurd is a relationship. It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
The man and the world. If you remove the man, the relationship ends. You haven't solved the problem, you've just deleted one of the terms.
You've just flipped the chessboard over.
Right, you've quit the game. And Camus wants to know if we can live while the game is being played. He wants to know if we can exist in the fracture without trying to escape it.
Which brings us to the second type of suicide. And this one is trickier. Philosophical suicide.
This is his attack on the existentialists. He goes after Kierkegaard, Jaspers, Chekhov. These are guys who stared into the same abyss Camus did. They felt the absurd.
But then they blinked.
They leaped. They performed what Camus calls the leap of faith.
Walk us through this. How is faith a suicide? It sounds extreme.
Okay, take Kierkegaard. He struggles with the fact that God is unintelligible. He can't prove God exists. The world looks chaotic. It doesn't make sense. So what does he do?
He believes anyway.
He says that because it is irrational, I must believe. He calls for the sacrifice of the intellect.
So he takes the silence of the world. And instead of accepting it as silence, he says, this silence is actually God being mysterious.
Exactly. He turns the blockage into a stepping stone. He deifies the irrational. He defines the absurd as God. And for Camus, this is cheating.
It's a cope.
It's the ultimate cope. It's forced hope.
Mm-hmm.
Camus says, I don't want to hope if I have to lie to myself to do it. He wants to keep his reasons intact. He refuses to sacrifice his intellect just to feel better.
This is what he means by living without appeal.
Yes. No appeal to a higher power. No appeal to a future afterlife where everything gets fixed and explained. No appeal to a grand plan of history like the Marxists have. Just you, here, now, with no safety net.
I have to play devil's advocate here. Living without hope, that sounds impossible. It sounds like torture. Why is he so against hope?
Because for Camus, hope is a narcotic. It dulls the pain of reality. If you were always looking at the horizon at heaven or the glorious revolution in the future, you're missing the present.
You're not living now.
You are devaluing the only life you actually have.
Yeah.
He thinks integrity means staring the monster in the face and not pretending it's a puppy.
So if we take physical suicide off the table, and we take the leap of faith off the table, we are left in a very tight spot. We are trapped in the absurd. What do we do?
This is the pivot point of the book. He says if we don't escape, we must live with the consequences. And he lists three of them: revolt, freedom, and passion.
Let's break these down because this is the toolkit for living. First, revolt.
Revolt is the internal stance. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily, building a barricade in the street, though it can be that too. It's a spiritual state.
Okay.
It is the certainty of a crushing fate, knowing you will die and be forgotten, combined with the refusal to accept it.
It's just pure stubbornness.
It's defiance. He compares it to a condemned man on death row. The man knows he's going to the gallows. He doesn't have any hope of escape, but he doesn't whimper. He doesn't say, it's for the best. He walks with his head up. He scorns the verdict.
And that scorn does something.
That scorn acts as a restorative. It gives life value in the face of meaninglessness.
There is no fate that cannot be surmounted by scorn. That's a metal line.
It puts the power back in your hands. You can kill me, but you can't make me agree with you that it's right.
Okay, second consequence. Freedom. This confuses me. If I'm bound by death and I can't change the world, how am I free?
He's distinguishing between eternal freedom, like free will given by God, and freedom of action. Think about the way most people live their lives. They are slaves to the future.
What do you mean by that?
You live your life trying to become something. You want to be a manager or a father or a saint. So you have to act in certain ways to get there. You constrain yourself. You say, I can't do that because it might ruin my chances of getting into heaven, or I must do this so I can retire at 65.
You're living for a payoff that hasn't happened yet and might not happen.
Exactly. But the absurd man, he knows there is no future. He knows death is the only guarantee. That realization destroys the future. And by destroying the future, it liberates the present.
It's the freedom of the man who has lost everything.
If you stop worrying about becoming, you can finally just be. You are available to the moment. He says you're like the condemned man whose prison doors open 5 minutes before the execution. He isn't thinking about his 401k. He's noticing the smell of the rain. He is completely, totally free.
Which leads directly to the third consequence, passion.
This is the most controversial one, the ethics of quantity over quality.
Yeah, explain this, because usually we're told to live a good life, a moral life, a life of quality, Camus says.
Nah.
He says that since there is no objective meaning and no afterlife to judge us, the only metric that remains is how much life you can experience. It's about maximizing the volume of consciousness.
He brings up Don Juan as the hero here, the serial seducer, which is a bold choice.
A very bold choice. Now, traditionally, moralists hate Don Juan. They say he's empty, they say he's sad because he can't find true love.
But Camus flips it. Camus says Don Juan isn't looking for true love. True love is a quality. It aims for eternity. Don Juan knows eternity is a lie. So he chooses quantity. He repeats the gift of himself. He loves as many women as possible, as intensely as possible.
So he's not failing to find love?
No, he's succeeding at multiplying it. He is eating up life. He knows he's going to die, so he wants to squeeze every last drop out of the orange. He's not melancholy. He's a wise man. He knows his limits.
He also mentions actors as another archetype.
The actor is the perfect absurd archetype. Think about it. In the span of 3 hours, an actor lives an entire life. He's King Lear. He loves, he betrays, he suffers, he dies. Then he wipes off the makeup and goes to dinner.
And the next night he does it again as someone else.
Then the next night, he's Hamlet. He's cramming multiple souls into one body.
So it's quantity of lives.
Exactly. The church used to hate actors for this very reason. They didn't believe in the singular soul. They mimed the ephemeral. Camus loves them because they live in the absolute present. Their art dies the moment the curtain falls. It's beautifully futile.
And the third archetype, the conqueror, the man of action.
This connects back to politics. The absurd conqueror fakes, builds empires, makes laws. But, and this is the key, he knows it won't last. He knows history will wash it all away.
But he does it anyway.
He does it anyway. He chooses the struggle over the result. He chooses the human sphere. I will work with what is here, knowing it will crumble.
Which brings us to the ultimate symbol of working on something that crumbles. The man who has been lurking in the background of this whole conversation. Sisyphus.
The myth of Sisyphus.
Oh.
It's the crescendo of the entire argument.
We all know the clip art version. Guy pushing a rock up a hill. But the backstory is actually really punk rock. Sisyphus was a bit of a trickster, wasn't he? He wasn't some poor victim.
Oh, he was the ultimate rebel.
Yeah.
The sources give a few reasons for his punishment. He treated the gods with levity. He stole their secrets. But my favorite story is that when death came to fetch him, Sisyphus actually tricked death and put him in handcuffs.
He handcuffed death.
Yes. And for a while, nobody on Earth died. The god of war, Ares, got furious because battles were boring. Nobody was dying. Pluto, the god of the underworld, was looking at an empty waiting room. So the gods had to intervene personally to free death.
So Sisyphus is punished for loving life too much, for refusing to leave.
Exactly. His punishment is tailored to crush that very spirit. He is condemned to roll a massive boulder up a mountain, and just as he reaches the peak, the rock rolls back down under its own weight.
And he has to start over. For eternity.
It's the definition of futility. Hopeless, useless labor.
It's meant to break his mind. But Kama zooms in on a very specific moment. He isn't interested in the pushing part. He's interested in the walk down.
The hour of consciousness.
Explain that.
Okay, visualize it. The rock is rolled away, the dust is settling. Sisyphus has to turn around and walk back down to the plain. He is empty-handed. His body aches. And in that walk, he has time to think.
That sounds like the worst part, the realization of I have to do this forever, the dread setting in.
It should be the worst part. It should be torture. But Kemas argues that this moment of clarity is actually his victory.
How? How is knowing you're screwed a victory?
Because he stops hoping. If he was pushing the rock thinking, maybe this time it will stay, he would be tortured by hope every single time.
Right. The disappointment would kill him.
But by accepting totally and completely that the rock will never stay, he becomes superior to his fate.
He owns it.
He owns it. He looks at the rock and says, this is my rock. This is my hill. You can make me push it, but you can't make me miserable.
And that leads to the final famous conclusion. One must imagine Sisyphus happy.
It sounds paradoxical. It sounds crazy. But think about the alternative. The alternative is surrender and despair. Sisyphus finds his happiness in the exertion itself. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart.
He's not waiting for a reward. The struggle is the reward.
He crowds the gods out of the picture. He makes the hell his home. He turns punishment into passion.
It's the ultimate forget you to the universe.
It is. It's saying, I will find joy right here in the dirt with my rock, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
That is strangely inspiring. It makes my emails feel a little more noble.
It should. It nobles the daily grind. We are all Sisyphus. But we have the choice to be happy Sisyphus or miserable Sisyphus.
Now, Sisyphus is a mythological figure, but Camus also looked for this absurd quality in other writers. He wanted to know if art could do this too, if art could be a form of revolt.
He did a deep dive into Dostoevsky and Kafka. He wanted to see if they were true, absurd artists.
And he's a harsh critic. He feels Dostoevsky gets close but fails in the end.
He looks at the character Kirillov in The Possessed. Kirillov is obsessed with logical suicide. His logic is fascinating.
Walk me through it.
He says, if God exists, then everything is his will and I am powerless. But if God does not exist, then I am God.
If God does not exist, I am God. That's a massive ego trip.
It means he has total independence. But to prove that independence, to prove he isn't afraid of death, he has to kill himself. He wants to kill himself to become the man-God. It's the ultimate assertion of freedom.
So Camus likes this guy. This is an absurd hero.
He likes the character. He thinks it's a perfect expression of the logic of the absurd. But he thinks Dostoevsky, the author, eventually chickens out.
How so?
In his later books, like The Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky brings God back. He preaches that suffering leads to salvation. He takes the leap of faith. So Camus says, disqualified, not an absurd novelist.
And Kafka. I feel like Kafka is the absurd. I mean, the man wakes up as a bug.
Camus agrees, to a point. He loves the metamorphosis. Gregor Samsa wakes up as a giant vermin. And what is his reaction? Is he screaming in cosmic horror?
No, he's worried about missing his train to his awful job.
Exactly. That is the naturalness of the unnatural. It captures the absurd perfectly. The clash between the horror of the situation and the banality of the reaction. And the trial, a man accused of a crime that is never explained. It's a perfect diagnosis of the human condition.
But there's a but.
But then comes the castle. In that book, the protagonist tries to reach the castle, which represents grace or God. He never gets there. But Camus argues that the attempt to get there, the yearning, smuggles hope back in. Kafka finds God in the indifference. He finds a weird kind of hope in the fact that the castle exists at all, even if it's unattainable.
So he smuggles hope in through the back door.
Through the humiliations of the divine, as Camus puts it. So even Kafka fails the strict test. He leaps.
Camus is like a bouncer at the Club of the Absurd. Oh, you brought a tiny bit of hope in your pocket. Get out.
He has to be strict. Because once you let hope in, the lucidity vanishes. The revolt weakens. You start lying to yourself again.
Speaking of conflict and bouncers, we can't talk about Camus without talking about the other giant in the room. The feud.
The heavyweight title fight of 20th century philosophy. Camus versus Sartre.
It's iconic. It's like Biggie and Tupac for philosophy nerds.
It really is. And it's tragic because they started as such good friends, they really admired each other.
Paint the picture of them in Paris, 1943.
It's occupied Paris. Nazis are everywhere. They meet at the opening of Sartre's play The Flies, and they are the odd couple of the century.
Physically
And temperamentally. Sartre is short, about 5'0". He's wall-eyed. His eyes look in different directions. He's notoriously unattractive.
What a genius.
A certified genius. And he comes from the elite. He went to the École Normale Supérieure. He's pure French establishment.
And Camus.
Camus is the street fighter. He's handsome. People compared him to Humphrey Bogart. He has the trench coat, the cigarette dangling from the lip. But he's poor. He's from the working class of Algiers. His mother was a cleaning lady who was deaf and illiterate. His uncle made barrels. He didn't have the pedigree.
But they clicked.
They loved each other. Simone de Beauvoir said they were like two dogs surrounding a bone, the bone being Sartre, because they were always out partying. Sartre admired Camus because Camus had actually lived. He'd played soccer, he'd chased women, he fought in the resistance. Sartre was more of a library rat.
So what broke them? Was it a girl? It's always a girl.
It was politics, specifically the Cold War.
The gulags.
Exactly. Here is the divide, and it's a chasm. Sartre was a hardline Marxist. He believed that the Soviet Union was the future. He knew about the labor camps, the gulags, the terror, but he believed that ends justify the means.
The omelet and the eggs?
You have to break some eggs. He thought that to make an omelet, you have to break millions of eggs. He said terror becomes revolutionary justice.
Wow.
He thought if you criticized the Soviet Union, you were helping the American imperialists, so you had to keep your mouth shut about the atrocities. For the greater good.
And Camus, the moralist, just couldn't do it.
Camus said no. He said, I will not trade the freedom of today for a utopia of tomorrow that might never come. He believed that politics must be subordinate to morality. You can't build a paradise on a foundation of mass graves.
And he wrote The Rebel to say this publicly.
The Rebel dropped in 1951. It's a blistering attack on revolutionary ideology. He basically equates communism with fascism, saying they both turn murder into a system, into a logic.
And Sartre took this personally.
He exploded. He felt betrayed. He had his magazine, L'Étoile Moderne, publish a complete hit piece on the book. And then they started writing open letters to each other in the press.
And the gloves came off.
Oh, it got nasty. It got personal. Sartre attacked Camus' intelligence. He called him a bel âme, a beautiful soul.
Which is sarcasm.
Heavy sarcasm. He meant, you're too delicate for the real world. You want to keep your hands clean. You're a moralizer, not a revolutionary. He basically accused Camus of being politically incompetent.
And there was that low blow about his background.
Yes. This was the one that really cut, Sartre wrote. He should have been a little crook from Algiers.
That is vicious. It's just pure classism.
It is. It's the Parisian elite telling the poor colonial boy to go back to the gutter. It hurt Camus deeply. He felt rejected by the intellectual community of Paris after that. He became very isolated in his final years.
But looking back now, I mean, Camus was right.
History has absolutely vindicated Camus. We know about the gulags now. We know the horror of Stalinism. The beautiful soul turned out to be the one seeing reality clearly, while the so-called realist Sartre was blinded by ideology.
It's a cautionary tale about what happens when you prioritize ideas over people.
Exactly. Camus never forgot the individual human suffering. Sartre got lost in the map and forgot the territory.
So they never reconciled. Camus dies in 1960.
A car crash.
Yeah.
And the absurdity of it, he had a train ticket in his pocket.
No way.
He was supposed to take the train with his family, but his publisher convinced him to drive at the last minute. The car hit a tree. He died instantly.
And Sartre wrote a eulogy.
He did. And even in the eulogy, he couldn't help himself. He praised Camus as a stubborn humanist, but it was a backhanded compliment. He was basically saying he was a good man, but he was a relic of the past.
Talk about a grudge.
But the irony is, Camus is the one we are reading today. His relic of morality is what we need most.
So let's bring it home. We've covered a lot. The panic of the Nobel, the silence of the universe, the refusal to hope, the rock, the feud.
It's a lot to process. It's heavy stuff.
If I'm a listener, let's say I'm driving to a job I don't particularly like, or I'm worried about the state of the world, what is the synthesis here? Because don't hope sounds so depressing.
We have to reclaim the word hope.
Yeah.
Camus equates hope with resignation.
Yeah.
He thinks that if you are hoping for a better future, you are excusing the present. You are checking out.
So his alternative isn't despair.
No. His alternative is vitality. It is presence. It's being awake.
There's that reference to Pandora's box.
Right, in Summer in Algiers, he reminds us of the original myth. When Pandora opens the box, all the evils of the world fly out, plague, famine, war. And the last thing remaining in the box is hope.
And we think of that as a good thing.
But the Greeks didn't. They viewed hope as the final, most dreadful evil, because it's the one that prolongs the torture. It keeps you chained to your suffering.
So King says, close the box, forget hope.
And open your eyes. Look at the generosity of the world, as he called it. The sun, the sea, the feeling of the wind on your skin, the face of the person sitting next to you. These things are real.
They're fleeting.
They are fleeting, yes. They will die, yes. But they are here, right now.
It's about the ethics of quantity again.
Yeah.
Live more.
It's about being logical to the bitter end. If there is no afterlife, then this life is infinitely precious. Every second you spend hoping for tomorrow is a second you stole from today.
So the challenge for the listener is, can you be Sisyphus?
Can you look at your rack, your commute, your struggles, your difficult relationships, and claim ownership of them? Can you say, this is my life. It leads nowhere, but it is mine.
And in that ownership, can you find the smile?
One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Not because he finished the job, but because he is doing it.
I think that's the most empowering thing I've heard in a long time. It takes the pressure off. I don't have to save the world. I just have to push my rock with a little bit of style.
Scorn to the fate and love for the rock.
I love that. Thank you for walking us through the absurd today. I feel weirdly lighter.
That is the Camus effect. The truth sets you free, even if the truth is heavy.
We'll leave you with that thought. Go find your rock, and we'll see you in the next deep dive. Thank you.